U.S. President Donald Trump's recent accusation that Nigeria is committing Christian genocide has sent shockwave across the diplomatic world. What may sound like another fiery Trump soundbite could, in truth, carry serious geopolitical weight. His comments are already shaping conversations around human rights intervention and Western influence, reopening a sensitive debate about Africa's right to self-determination in global politics. Now, here at home, Nigerians are torn between outrage and uneasy reflection. But beyond the noise, there's a deeper question. When a superpower labels an African nation as a perpetrator of genocide, what does it mean for sovereignty, for diplomacy, and for the delicate balance of power between Africa and the West?
Well, joining us to explore those implications is first Adeniyi Kunnu, who is the public affairs analyst. Also joining us is
Alexander von Rugen. My apologies there. He's also joining us as well to have this very interesting conversation.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Adeniyi, let me start with...
We've lost Adeniyi, unfortunately. But we still got Alexander. Alexander, good morning. Thank you very much. Judith, please do continue.
Alexander, I would like to ask, first of all, where your position lies, in these allegations of genocide and, Nigeria's response and the history behind this. Do you see Trump having, enough basis, to point this to genocide, or is there more to it in terms of political undertones at play here?
Well, I think, first of all, Trump hasn't accused Nigeria as a government of genocide. He's saying genocide is happening in Nigeria. And let's, you have to understand, logic and reason dictates if something quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, why don't we just call it a duck? Why do we talk around it? This term, genocide, is a heinous term. But by definition, look at what the definition of genocide is. It's the deliberate and systematic killing or persecution of a large number of people from a particular nation, national or ethnic group, with the aim of destroying that group or nation. Now, are Christians being killed and murdered and systematically attacked in Nigeria? Yes. Are they being killed in large numbers? Yes. Are they being targeted on specific Christian holidays, which the targets and the attacks seem to be coordinated with? Yes. So it kind of isolates the fact that Christians are being targeted. Yes, they're being killed. Now, we all know that this is not specific to Christians. Many Muslims have been killed in the country as well, which makes it even a graver situation for Nigeria. So I think the politicians in Nigeria have to accept their own shortcomings here, accept a term, and accept the critique they're receiving as maybe an olive branch for help instead of denying a word. Let's focus on fixing the problem as opposed to denying responsibility for it.
To subvert its sovereignty? No. But let's talk beyond the facts that you have just stated now regarding genocide, whether Christian or Muslim. Let's talk about the way and the manner in which these expressions were given by the U.S. president. These are more than just words. It goes beyond that when it has to do with a superpower and a sovereign nation in Africa. The question is, how will this affect relationship between the U.S. and Nigeria going forward?
Well, Nigeria has already responded. President Tinubu, initially, his reaction was of denial. And there was more of a concern of sovereign incursion into Nigeria by a superpower. I clearly don't think that's the case. And the narrative has also changed now that it's become an international concern for Nigeria's security, and they welcome assistance. I think that's where you're going to see the switch in narrative from the opposition to Nigeria being attacked as a sovereign entity. Let's take a moment here. How did we get to this point? First of all, these atrocities have been going on with Boko Haram for about 15 years now. The world has been watching, and there's been an outcry from the Christian community internationally for help because the government of Nigeria doesn't seem to be doing enough to stop it. So now the world is being focused with the media and, of course, the comments from President Trump. The comments hurt. There's a tone of aggression there. President Trump has been known not to have the best bedside manner when he speaks, but he also deals in affirmative action. And when he says something typically other than the past diplomatic rhetoric of other politicians, his actions speak for themselves as well. So I think that's where the attention is now being focused and why we have this reaction. But if it's managed properly, I think this could be a win-win situation for Nigeria and President Trump, who tends to be a peacemonger, not a warmonger.
To get the Nobel Peace Prize and the snub by the panel there. Let me switch gears. Adeniyi Kunnu is with us. Adeniyi, a very good morning to you. You've had the reaction from Alexander here, our guest, who said that this is a time for a diplomatic dialogue and also for Nigeria not to deny these cases of targeted attacks, but more seek assistance in battling this type of attacks and terrorism on our shores. But I do have to ask you, Adeniyi, from your own standpoint, do you see the body language between both countries being hostile or one of where Trump is, opening his arms and extending somewhat assistance instead of asking for something?
Well, I need to make this clear that there is no way anybody will come into your house if your doors are not open. For majority of people who have rodents and crawling insects anywhere in their house or their homes, it's because at some point somebody opened the door, at some point somebody didn't latch the door properly. And immediately those things happen, whatever takes place afterwards, you need to take full responsibility for it. Now, let me give us this picture. There can never be any hostility between Nigeria and the United States of America. But the point of fact remains that as long as certain persons in Nigeria have chosen the path of wickedness, irresponsibility, and lack of accountability and corruption, the U.S. will never look away from such things. Do not forget that beyond the intervention of the United States of America, or the fact that they're talking about the genocidal deaths of many people in the country, there's also economic interest at stake here. For the past 10, 15 years, don't forget, officially we unveiled Boko Haram in 2009. So appropriately so, I could say, well, this is like the 16th year of Boko Haram's incursion into certain parts of the country. But what is needful for us to understand is the monies that have been expended, the monies and ammunition that the United States of America continues to pour into this country, most of these monies have not been accounted for. Most of the promises made by the leadership of this country to deal with insurgency has not been done. Also, listen clearly here, that in the course of all these problems, we have had people in the government of Muhammadu Buhari who have sworn allegiance at some point or the other, even to Boko Haram. The former information communication technology person, Ali Issa Pantami, had conversations and some kind of allegiance to insurgents in the country. Ali Modu Sheriff has accused the current president in 2020 of being the one who actually sponsored some persons that are within the rank and file of Boko Haram. I spoke with an assistant director, retired, of the Department of State Services in Nigeria, and he told me that while he was in service and they were looking for one of the top Boko Haram members, they found him in the house of the current vice president of Nigeria. Now, whilst those people may actually be one way or the other not carrying ammunition with Boko Haram, the religious sentiment that has made them continuously give support to Boko Haram is totally unacceptable in this country. Let me also make this clear, because this is a global platform. This country is supposed to be a secular state. In 1999, when Nigeria returned to democracy, meaning the Fourth Republic, many of the Northwest and Northeastern states chose the path of Sharia. Nigeria is a secular country. In the news yesterday, many of them are saying that they don't want to give up Sharia. This is supposed to be a secular country. Part of what can help this problem go away is ensuring that this country maintains its secular status in terms of religious affiliation of people. Virtually all the states of the Northeast and Northwest have, some states have 50% Muslim, 50% Christian, whereas they are making laws that will be willingly binding on Christian in those states. So you find out that when they talk about genocide itself, it seems many people do not even understand. And I'm happy that my other guest actually started by defining what genocide means. So even if I want to be generous enough and remove the killing of Christians, why will people that do not have the empowerment by law continuously kill people? So for the US and Nigeria, our relationship will not be strained.
Okay.
But the reality is, for this relationship to be sustained, we have to do the right thing.
All right, Mr. Adeniyi, my apologies, I have to come in here because we are currently covering the Anambra governorship elections. So we will be going in and out to see what our updates are from our correspondents who are on ground to bring us more information. So we will do that right now. Do stay put. We're coming back with very interesting question here regarding the AU's commitment and how they play into this with the statement that they have put out regarding the Trump invasion threats. But let's turn to our correspondent in Anambra State now, and that's Victor Mbadike, who's going to be giving us updates. I hear that the voting has started. Victor, if you're there, do tell us exactly what's happening now. You did send a message telling that the voting and voters have started to vote. Give us more, please. What's happening? Oh, Victor, apologies there. We'll have to stop you there because I think we had his audio just a bit. Perhaps maybe he could go on. Okay, Victor, I'm being told that we have a problem with your audio, so we'll come back to you eventually. Our apologies here. Let me come back to our gentlemen guests. We have Adeniyi Kunnu and, of course, Mr. Alexander van Rugen. We're talking about the Trump-Nigeria issue here. Now, Alexander, let me come to you. The AU put out a statement only recently telling about or reinforcing Nigeria's sovereignty. However, from before, one has to ask the question how they played in. If they are a nation that was set with 55 African countries and they were bestowed with the responsibility to actually promote peace in Africa, this threat, in quote, as it's been called, is not one just against Nigeria's sovereignty. It actually impugns the AU as an organization. So how do you think the AU should play this forward, Mr. Alexander van Rugen? Alexander, yes, go ahead, please.
This is not just a Nigerian problem. You've got borders with Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. And Boko Haram has been moving across those borders. I'm sure a lot of them are running across these borders right now with this threat coming from America. So it's going to need AU cooperation in dealing with. I might add also, Cameroon is already cooperating with America. There's about 300 U.S. forces on the ground in Cameroon, specifically to train the Cameroonian soldiers to deal with Boko Haram and to gather intel and use U.S. technology in dealing with them. So this is not a sudden response. This has been in the making for some time. If the AU is defensive, one thing that will happen with U.S. intervention, there's going to be a general auditing, as my friend discussed. Where is the money gone to for past U.S. support for weapons, military, in general assistance in Nigeria? I think there's going to be an audit, big audit coming, and I think a lot of people are going to be intimidated by that because it's going to expose a lot of corruption And no one wants that if they're one of the corruptors. The inefficiencies or inadequacies of why this hasn't been dealt with in the past, again, there may be different motives. Just lack of efficiency could be one, but perhaps the problems are deeper than that. And one thing that happens when the U.S. does get involved is this gets exposed. I might add, Trump never threatened to invade Nigeria. He threatened to deal with the problem if Nigeria can't. And he said, you need to react on this quickly. So we've been watching you for 15 years. This isn't the first time we threatened sanctions, but now we're going to hit hard. We're going to hit you in the wallet. We're going to stop all aid to Nigeria unless this matter is dealt with right now, because it's a serious matter.
Couple of the things here from the AU's statement and how they're positioning themselves. And maybe you two gentlemen will tell us exactly how you think, if this is coming across as defensive or cooperative. The AU administrative body put out this statement, and they emphasized Nigeria's sovereignty. The statement reminded that Nigeria is a long-standing AU member who plays a key role in regional stability. The AU also warned that framing Nigeria's complex security challenges solely in religious terms could destabilize communities and hinder effective solutions. So let me ask Mr. Kunnu, does this sound defensive? And what do you think this would mean for relationships between Africa and the U.S. going forward?
I call that airy platitude. Airy platitude because the same African Union have not been able to speak to the problems of the leadership in Cameroon, where one man has been there for over 40 years. The same AU will still be accommodating Cameroon at its meetings when it should have spoken that, hey, you cannot continue to alter your constitution and mess up the lives of Cameroonians. The same AU has not been able to speak to the issue of the Yadema family in Togo, has been there for over 50 years. The AU has not been able to speak strongly to the issue of undemocratic practices in a place like Uganda. The AU could not speak strongly to the issue in Tanzania, where all the opposition leaders have been imprisoned. So the AU, to me, at this point, is a joke. The AU has only spoken because the need to speak is here. Let me tell us this, and to be very frank. If the United States of America cuts its support to Africa, Africa will be engulfed in war in less than 1 month, because the US has been able to enable that many African countries remain to an extent stable, but what is expected of the leadership of these many African countries has been falling short of. The problem in Nigeria that the AU is responding to is expected, but as I said earlier, it is airy platitude. At this point, the AU should have spoken. Show me the statement, please. I need you to help me here. If my research is not strong enough, show me the strong worded statement that the AU has made when Nigerians were killed in certain churches in a war, when certain persons were killed in a church on Christmas Day. Show me the statement that the African Union has made to condemn this killing. So the AU is just being hypocritical in speaking when the US has decided. And let's even talk about it. And I'm very happy for what my guest is re-emphasizing here. He has said it more than 3 times, that the US has not said it is invading Nigeria. The US said, we're going to deal with the terrorists that have been killing. Why is it that the presidency and many other political leaders in Nigeria are suddenly uncomfortable that the government of the United States has decided to destroy the terrorists? This is a country where terrorists will be going, this is a country where terrorists will be going to certain places in communities and be having meetings. This is a country where the traditional rulers of communities will be giving terrorists traditional titles in Nigeria, and nothing happens to them. This is the place where terrorists will be going to markets, will be going to open places, will be taking gas, will be taking food from the market, and they will walk away and nobody does anything to them. This is a place where the political leadership in communities will be attending wedding ceremonies with these terrorists, and nobody is talking. Excuse me, that's not being a joke here. It means that some of these people are in cahoots with these terrorists. So if the U.S. Yes, please.
Yes,
please.
I know that you have a lot to say, but very quickly, because we're pressed for time. China is also waiting on this as well, saying that Nigeria is a sovereign state and Trump has no right to invade or even step into the matters. But more importantly, we know that Trump's diplomacy is transactional. Is there more than it meets the eye? And the question is, why now? Is this going to be transactional? Do they really care about Christians, or are they just hamping on an opportunity because the Nigerian government and the AU left their house open?
Let me put it on record here for the world to listen. Many African countries would never have been liberated had the US not intervened in the Second World War. So when China is speaking, China is only speaking because now it is getting certain economic benefit from Africa. When Africa was in subterfuge of colonialism, where was China? So I'm simply saying this here that the US has bragging rights. But for the US, even Europe would never have been free from the war and the killing machines of Hitler. So let me say the African Charter that emancipated most of the African countries was enabled by the US. China is only saying what it is saying because of its economic inroads and the Belt and whatever road that it's doing. So I'm saying here that if a country has decided to eliminate enemies, the same China that is talking will never allow Muslims to mess around in China. The Uyghur Muslims in China, China has never allowed them to do any nonsense regarding terrorism. So why would China act as if it doesn't understand what is happening in the northeast of Nigeria? China is only saying that. As far as I'm concerned, if we need to collaborate properly with a country, excuse me, every world power has certain transactions and certain benefits to gain from countries they're going to. China is talking. 40% of all exploration in Sudan it belongs to the Chinese government.
My apologies,
so
Mr. Adeniyi. We are at the top of the hour. Unfortunately, we would love to stay and listen to these very interesting facts and also claims that you're giving, but we have to end now. So let's say thank yous to you, Mr. Alexander von Rugen, and also to you, Mr. Adeniyi Kunnu, for joining for this very interesting conversation. We wish we had the entire hour for it, but unfortunately we have to go now because we're still monitoring the Anambra elections. Gentlemen, thank you very much.